Yugoslavia, November 7, 1944. Dawn breaks slowly over the jagged mountains of Serbia, the valleys below still wrapped in cold mist and shadow. High above it all, 12 American P-38 Lightning fighters slice through the morning sky, their twin booms glinting faintly in the rising sun. The war in Europe has entered its brutal final phase, and this mission on paper is routine, interdiction, disruption, deny the enemy movement. At the head of the formation flies Colonel Clarence Edwinson, an experienced officer who has seen enough combat to trust both his instincts and his briefing. What he cannot see yet is how thin the line between certainty and catastrophe truly is and how close he already is to crossing it. Below the clouds, a sudden movement catches Edwinson's eye. Steam rises sharply from the mountainside, cutting through the fog like a signal flare. A train, a German locomotive, exposed and vulnerable, pushing through occupied territory. It is not their primary target, but in wartime, opportunity is currency and hesitation can be deadly. Edwinson banks his aircraft and dives. One by one, the lightnings follow, engines screaming as gravity pulls them toward the rails. Cannons open fire, metal shreds, the locomotive's boiler ruptures in a violent burst of steam and debris. In seconds, the train is crippled and the Americans pull up hard, already anticipating retaliation. What they do not yet realize is that this single decision has set something irreversible in motion. The German response is immediate and furious. Anti-aircraft guns hidden in the hills erupt without warning. Black flak bursts bloom around the formation, punching holes through the sky itself. Shrapnel rattles against aluminum fuselages. Edwinson shouts for his men to drop lower, to escape the deadly envelope, but the warning comes too late for one pilot. A direct hit, fire blossoms from a lightning's wing. Over the radio, a scream cuts through the static, sharp and human, followed by silence. No parachute appears, the aircraft spirals into the mountains below, vanishing into smoke and trees. In the space of seconds, a routine strike has claimed an American life, and the emotional temperature, the cockpit shifts violently. The squadron races away from the flak zone, hugging the terrain as the mountains rush past beneath them. Inside the cockpits, grief has no time to settle. It hardens instead into anger, the kind that demands action. Ahead, the landscape opens into a broad valley. Roads snake through it, vehicles move in formation. Armor glints faintly in the light, an airfield lies nearby, its runways clearly visible from above. To Edwinson, it matches the intelligence briefing perfectly, German-controlled infrastructure supporting the retreat toward Belgrade. Everything lines up, everything makes sense. And yet, somewhere far below, a fatal assumption is about to collide with reality. On the ground, no one expects an attack. Soviet soldiers' Red Army troops are moving openly, without camouflage or concealment. Trucks roll forward in loose convoys. Red flags flutter proudly in the cold air. It is November 7th, the anniversary of the October Revolution, and despite the war, there is celebration. Songs echo across the field, men look up as aircraft appear overhead, and smiles spread. These planes have twin booms, they are unmistakable, American allies for a brief, fragile moment. Relief replaces caution until the formation suddenly tightens and noses dip downward. If you're finding this story gripping so far, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's a simple action, but it helps these stories reach more people and keeps moments like this from being forgotten. From the cockpit, Edwinson sees movement scatter below. He sees vehicles, structures, aircraft on the ground. He sees what he believes he has been trained to see. The order comes instinctively, attack, the lightnings roll in, guns blazing. The first rounds tear into trucks and men alike. Bombs detonate along the airfield's edge. Celebration collapses into screaming panic in seconds, red flags burn, bodies fall. And even now amid the explosions and confusion, neither side fully understands what is happening. But somewhere between the dive and the impact, the last chance to stop what comes next quietly disappears. Below the attacking aircraft, the illusion of safety shatters instantly. Soviet soldiers dive for cover as bullets rake through trucks and fuel drums explode in sheets of flame. Men who moments ago were singing now crawl through mud and smoke, shouting warnings no one can fully understand. At the airfield, mechanics scatter from parked aircraft as explosions tear into hangars and runways. To the Americans above, it looks exactly like a German base caught off guard. To the Soviets on the ground, it feels like betrayal falling from the sky, and even as commanders struggle to make sense of it, the realization creeps in far too slowly. Anti-aircraft alarms scream to life. Gunners sprint to their positions, some still convinced this must be a Luftwaffe deception, German aircraft masquerading as American. There is no time to debate. Orders overlap, shouted in fragments through smoke and confusion. Guns elevate, barrels glow. Soviet flag rises to meet the attacking fighters, filling the air with black bursts and lethal fragments. From above, Edwinson sees the fire coming up and takes it as confirmation: enemy defenses, enemy base. The logic of combat tightens like a vice. He orders another pass. The lightnings plunge again, cannons hammering the ground. Soviet trucks are shredded. Aircraft trying to taxi are obliterated before they can lift off. In the chaos, a single American P-38 is hit hard while pulling out of its dive. The cockpit fills with smoke, controls fail. Second Lieutenant Eldon Carlson fights the aircraft desperately, trying to gain altitude, trying to escape the storm of fire rising from below. He never makes it. The lightning slams into the earth in a fireball visible from miles away. Edwinson sees it happen, another American pilot lost. Any lingering doubt vanishes beneath the weight of anger and momentum. On the ground, Soviet commanders still cannot grasp the truth. Reports flood in from different directions: enemy aircraft attacking, friendly aircraft destroyed, units under fire. Some officers assume the Germans have somehow acquired American planes, others suspect sabotage or treachery. Communications are patchy, radios overwhelmed by frantic voices, no clear picture forms. What does become clear is that the airfield is under sustained assault, and that survival now depends on fighting back with everything available. The decision is made: fighters must be scrambled. Even as orders go out, confusion deepens. Soviet pilots run to their aircraft through smoke and burning debris, engines coughing to life amid explosions. Ground crews wave frantically, pointing at the sky, trying to explain what words cannot. The lightnings are already lining up for another attack, methodical and relentless. Below them, anti-aircraft fire grows heavier, more coordinated. The valley becomes a killing zone, layered with tracer fire, smoke columns, and falling debris. And still on both sides there is no shared understanding of who the enemy truly is. The first Soviet fighters begin to roll. Yak-9 South accelerate down damaged runways, lifting off under fire as bullets tear through the air around them. Pilots strain to gain altitude, eyes locked on the attacking formation above. From the American cockpits, new shapes appear: fighters climbing fast, painted in unfamiliar colors. To Edwinson and his men, it looks like a desperate German response. To the Soviet pilots, the sight of American aircraft still attacking leaves no room for doubt. Whatever the cause, this is now combat, and it is about to cross a line no one ever intended to cross. As the first yak clears the smoke and turns toward the lightnings, the battle shifts from tragedy to something even more unthinkable. Allies, bound by treaty and common cause, are seconds away from engaging each other in open-air combat. The final barrier hesitation is gone, and once the first shot is fired in the sky itself, there will be no easy way back. The sky above the valley fractures into chaos. Soviet Yak-9 fighters claw for altitude through smoke and drifting debris, their pilots struggling to make sense of what they are seeing even as instinct takes over. Lieutenant Krivonigic and Junior Lieutenant Chipolya are among the first airborne, pushing their engines to the limit as tracers streak past their wings. Below them, the airfield burns. Above them, American P-38s circle and dive with deadly precision. There is no time left for signals or diplomacy, only seconds to decide who lives and who dies. And in those seconds, History tilts into a place it was never meant to go. The Lightnings attack again. Soviet aircraft, still on the ground, are destroyed before they can escape, erupting into flames along the runway. One American P-38 pulls out of a dive to slowly, its speed bleeding away as it climbs. A yak lines up behind it. The Soviet pilot squeezes the trigger. Cannon fire rips into the Lightning's fuselage, and the aircraft disintegrates midair. Second Lieutenant Philip Brewer dies instantly, his plane breaking apart and falling in burning pieces toward the valley floor. With that moment, any remaining ambiguity vanishes. This is no longer a mistake in progress. This is a fight. If you're still with this story, now is a powerful moment to like the video and subscribe. These stories matter, and every interaction helps more people discover the history that nearly slipped through the cracks. Krvanigic and Shipulya will back toward the Americans, fully aware they are outnumbered. They could disengage, they could escape. But below them, Soviet soldiers are still under attack, and abandoning the fight feels impossible. The two yaks dive together, coordinating instinctively. Tracer fire crisscrosses the sky. Krvanigic maneuvers sharply, sliding behind a P-38 and firing at close range. The American aircraft shudders, then the pilot bails out, parachute snapping open just seconds before the Lightning smashes into the ground. For the first time in history, an American fighter has been downed by a Soviet pilot in direct combat. The battle spirals outward, aircraft twisting and burning against the cold November sky. Anti-aircraft fire continues to rise blindly from below, Soviet gunners firing at anything overhead in desperate defense. In the confusion, tragedy compounds itself. Krvanigic pulls hard out of a turn just as a burst of flak erupts nearby. Shrapnel tears through his yak. The aircraft disintegrates almost instantly, leaving no chance for escape. One of the few pilots who understood exactly what was happening dies not at the hands of the enemy, but by friendly fire from the ground he was trying to protect. Moments later, Shipulya is hit as well. His yak spirals downward, trailing smoke before slamming into the earth. In the span of minutes, the sky has claimed pilots from both sides, each convinced they were fighting to survive, each trapped by decisions made too fast to reverse. The valley below is littered with burning wreckage, American and Soviet aircraft indistinguishable in death. And still, the fighting has not fully stopped. Far from the valley, frantic messages finally break through the fog of war. Reports reach nearby Soviet bases describing American aircraft attacking Soviet positions. At first, the claims seem impossible, then undeniable. Fighters are scrambled in haste, engines roaring as a new group races toward the chaos. Among them is Captain Alexander Koldunov, an experienced pilot who expects to intercept German reconnaissance aircraft. What he will see instead will force him to question everything he knows about the battle unfolding ahead and whether it can still be stopped. Captain Alexander Koldunov pushes his Yak-3 hard as the valley comes into view, smoke pillars marking the battlefield long before individual aircraft can be seen. His orders are clear: intercept enemy planes threatening Soviet ground forces. But as he closes the distance, something feels wrong. The silhouettes ahead are unfamiliar in this context: twin booms, long central fuselages, moving in disciplined formations. For a moment, his mind refuses to accept what his eyes are telling him. Then the truth lands with chilling clarity: these are not German aircraft. They are American P-38 Lightnings, allies. Koldunov throttles back and aborts his attack. He pulls alongside one of the Lightnings, close enough to see the pilot's helmeted head turn in surprise. Koldunov rocks his wings deliberately, then again, the universal signal of recognition. He points to the red stars painted clearly on his aircraft. "We are on the same side." For a heartbeat, it seems the message might land. The American fighter slows, drifting into position beside him. Hope flickers, fragile but real, and then the Lightning slides behind the Yak's tail. The guns do not fire, but they could have. In that instant, Koldunov understands how close the battle is to continuing, how deeply confusion has hardened into reflex. He breaks away sharply, unwilling to test fate any further. Other American aircraft begin to disengage as well, their pilots finally absorbing the impossible reality. Orders crackle over radios, voices tense and uncertain. Somewhere far above the valley, the momentum that has driven the violence begins, slowly, to collapse, but below, the damage is already done. As the shooting fades, the battlefield reveals itself in full. Wreckage smolders across hillsides and fields. Craters mark the airfield where celebrations once stood. American pilots are missing, Soviet pilots are dead. Ground crews and soldiers move among the ruins in stunned silence, helping the wounded, counting the fallen. There is no triumph here, no strategic gain. Only the hollow aftermath of a battle that should never have existed. For those on the ground, explanations come later if they come at all. In the days that follow, the incident is quickly buried beneath layers of silence. Both governments understand the stakes. The alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union is fragile, held together by necessity rather than trust. Publicly acknowledging that allied forces have fought each other in open combat would be catastrophic. Reports are classified, details are suppressed. The fallen are mourned quietly, their deaths folded into the vast, impersonal ledger of wartime loss. Officially, the battle never happened, but history remembers even when governments would prefer it not to. This single day stands as a brutal lesson in how modern war operates, at speed, under pressure, fueled by incomplete information and human emotion. No one involved woke up intending to fight an ally, no order was given to betray a partner. And yet, once the first assumption was made, once the first shot was fired, the machinery of violence took over, relentless, unforgiving, and nearly impossible to stop in time. The tragedy of November 7, 1944 is not a story of villains or heroes. It is a story of momentum, how decisions compound, how certainty evaporates, and how even the strongest alliances can fracture in minutes when clarity is lost. The men who died that day were not victims of hatred, ideology, or even strategy. They were victims of the fog of war itself, a force as deadly as any weapon ever built. And when the smoke finally cleared, the silence that followed was not peace. It was the quiet acknowledgement that some losses can never be justified, only remembered.